All right, so in this video, we are going to make a flower for our flower project, as well as exporting the flower as a PDF and STL. And then if we have enough time, we might do an assembly as well. So here's just the flower project really in totality. So first off, we got to make a design. So we're going to make a design here. And then for the flower stem, because if you read the prompt, it's supposed to interface with a vase, which I have designed. I have a whole box right here. And so here is a vase. Probably not focused. But they're all just little different designs. And any of them should work. So there's a universal design we are doing here. So for our flower, we are going to make it 0.1 wide, 0.1 inches wide. And here's the cool thing, is that I just started making a rectangle and told it 0.1. And then now I can click tab on my keyboard, and then it is going to switch. And I'm going to make this 0.5. You have up to 0.7 inches to work with as a negative space inside the vase. It's really your call. Just about 0.5 is usually good to go. And then about an inch away, so this one group of squares is half an inch. So there's another half inch, another half inch. So this is 1 inch away. I'm going to make another rectangle. I'm going to make it 0.1 by 0.15 inches. And that's going to go inside the flower. So this bottom part is going to go inside the vase, and this top part should go in the flower. Now, I could have made this, had this rectangle anywhere. If I wanted to, I could move this whole thing over here. It really doesn't matter. It just needs to be within about an inch from the base. So I'm going to do this, set it back here. And then I'm going to do a fit point spline. And now fit point spline is really nice because wherever you are making your points, it is going to automatically cut them across and make an arc to fit all of them. So I'm going to start on the left side of the top part here. And I'm just going to start making a curved line. And all I did was I was just clicking with my mouse. That was it. I click create. It draws all the vector lines for me. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side, and I'm just going to try and keep the same general vibe. There we go. And then just to keep it nice and clean, I'm going to click trim. Trim's really nice because it will cut only one part of the line. It won't cut the whole thing. It will just cut from one part to another. Still your points, still your vectors, whatever your endpoints are. Do the same thing up here. So now this is reading as one entire thing. Now I'm going to use my arc, 3-point arc, because you have to have a leaf on this as well. And I'm going to make an arc, let's just start here. It's really random, just kind of whatever floats your boat. There's my leaf. And then I'm going to trim this. So now it's one whole thing, and that's kind of hard to tell with all the green on there. But now when I click Finish Sketch, I have this funky little shape, a little stem with a leaf. If I click Home, it'll show it to me like that. What we're going to do is we're going to extrude, and automatically selects the shape. If for some reason it doesn't select the shape, if it looks like this, and it says Select in the top right corner, it's because you have to select the shape. So we're going to click Select, and we're going to do 0.1 inches because we want it to be square inside of the vase. And here we go. We have a stem. So I'm going to save this. We're going to stick with naming conventions. So we're going to do initials, space, hyphen, space, and then this is my stem. I'm not going to save this in my admin project or default project or whatever. I'm going to save it in the flower project. You have a first hour folder, second hour folder. I have a Mr. Owens folder. So we're going to save this. So I'm going to call this stem 2 because this is my second stem I've made. Oh, made sure I didn't select Mr. Owens. Flower project, Mr. Owens. It says right there. If it just said flower project, then I never got into that folder. Save. So now here we are. We have my stem all done. And let's do our flower now. So I'm going to create a new tab, and then I'm going to click Create Sketch. And then really your flower can look however you want it to look. I wouldn't go bigger than 1 inch in diameter. I'm going to select my rectangle. Now, when you do your drop down on the rectangle, you can either select center rectangle from here, or if you already select it, it's an option over here. Personally, I like center rectangle for something like this, because I put a point where I want the center of the rectangle to be. And I'm going to do 0.12 by 0.12. I just click tab to switch those. That 0.12 is going to give us extra space to allow for our stem to move in and out, because these are interfacing parts. Sorry, my throat was getting dry. Needed to get a drink of water or green tea. Sponsored, not sponsored. Arizona, I will take a sponsorship. All right, so we're going to click Finish Sketch. And look at my beautiful flower. Very stunning, very fantastic, I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Extrude. And I'm going to extrude this at least 0.15. I'm going to do at least 0.15, or actually I'll just do 0.15 because I have this square, and that is for the peg piece to go into. Now, I don't want my flower to just look like a disc, so I'm going to do a new sketch on here. Let's make it look like a little dome. So there's a few different ways you can do it. I'm making a circle, putting a line in the middle, and trimming the edge because I don't like to see it. And what this is going to do is now we have a little semicircle here. I can click Revolve. I can select my face that I want to revolve. And then I can select my axis, and look at that. Now, it thinks it's smarter than I am, which I know is false. So, it's trying to cut it all out, because it's like, hey dude, you did a revolve in a shape that already exists. I'm just going to cut it all out for you. I'm like, hey, that's not what I want. I want a semicircle on top of this disc. So I just grabbed this lever. You don't have to. If you're like, Mr. Owens, I don't have fine motor control, then you can just type in 180, and there you go. Same thing, it should say join on the side here. If it doesn't say join, it's going to be a pain in the butt later. So I'm going to click that. And then now I have this little, semicircle on top of a disc. What an exciting flower. So I can create sketch, select the top of this, and let's give this some depth. Let's give it something, let's see, I'm going to do a 3-point arc, and then I'll click this. Beautiful, beautiful, fantastic. Oh my gosh. I should get paid for this. All right. Now, I have this pedal that I've made. Cool. I can either try and make the same pedal over and over and over again, but then get super frustrated when they're all not turning out the same. Or, hear me out, there's a button for it. I can click Create. And then there's circular pattern and rectangular pattern. Now, for those of you playing at home, I'm going to give you a second to try and guess which one we're doing while I take a drink of tea. Was that enough time? Say it with me. Circular pattern. Whoop, whoop. All right, we're going to click Objects. Now for Objects, I'm going to select all these lines. I'm going to select the two parts of the pedal and this arc. If you don't do that, you can, but the problem is that it's going to see it as just two lines you're making. Now, when I do this, it is going to see it as a whole shape, and then a shape I can extrude very easily. So I'm going to click center point. That's my center point. And look at that. It's going all the way around my circle. And I can make as many or as few of these as I want to. And let's go for something that looks, that's nice and symmetrical. 16. Let's go for it. Now, I have 16 little pieces coming off my flower, and what I can do, I have a few different options here. Hey, you know what? It's America. We have options. So I can either extrude each of these petals, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. That works. I can do this. I can extrude them like that. And then there's that. That works. All right. Or if I'm like, you know what? I want there to be more body in the middle of this. I can right click down here on my little timeline and click edit feature. And when I edit the feature, it brings me back to this page. And I can select more parts of this profile. So if I just want to add some depth to it, I can do this. And then now it's going to have, I hate when that little thing gets in the way there, little dialog box. Now, when I look at it, look at that, a little bit more depth to it, don't you say? Now, the one problem I have is that this isn't connected to the middle part, but such is life, you know? Can't win all of them. So I can either choose to keep that if I want to, or I can go back, or I can do none of that entirely. And I can be like, you know what, actually, I don't really like this race feature. I'm going to cancel that. I just click the X right by it. When you select the profile, there's an X. Just click the X. And you know what, maybe I want, let's still do the kind of negative space thing. I don't know if I want to do that one, though. Let's do, I'm going to select the inner part that I selected before, and I'm going to select the outermost part. So the outline of the petals, not the inside of the petal. Let's see what this looks like. Now here's the cool thing that they don't want you to know. This looks kind of silly, right? If I extrude this, I'm like, there's my flower. Oh, I guess that's a flower. Or, hear me out, edit feature. All right, it still remembers. It's like, hey, this is what you extruded, you jackwagon. I can, come on. Oh, it's trying to do a new body. Mr. Owens told me I don't want to do a new body. Let's do a cut. Let's see what that looks like. How's it glitching out? All right, so I just dragged that straight down to do a cut like that. And then, look at that. That's a pretty cool flower. So you can do a positive profile or a negative profile. Really, it doesn't matter. You're the artist, all right? Don't let anyone tell you that your art doesn't matter, because it does matter. So really, it's your call how you want to do it. If you want to cut it, if you want to relief it, whatever. I like this one. I think this one looks really good. So I'm going to stick with this one. Now let's save it. We're going to stick with the same naming conventions, CO, and then I'm going to do flower 2. Flower project was rounds. Fantastic. Now, let's do an assembly. Let's make sure all this is going to fit before we even try to 3D print it. So we're going to click New Design. And up in the top right corner, there's Insert Component. I'm going to click Insert Component. I'm going to find my files. So there's flower 2. I'm going to insert that. Now, it's going to try and ground it to parent straight out the gate. I can if I want to, but that just means that this flower is not going to move. I'm going to unclick that because I really want this flower to move. So I'm going to unclick ground to parent, click OK. I'm going to insert my second stem, and it's going to be right there. I'm just going to move it a little bit. That way I can mess with it. And I can rotate it too. I know that I'm going to need to see these parts of it. So I'm just going to kind of rotate it upwards. That way it's a little bit easier for me to see. And then I'm going to insert one last component. And this is in the Mr. Owens' folder as of right now. Vase Final. This is the vase that I 3D printed. So here's my vase. And remember, all the vases I printed, all like 140 something of them, should work with everybody's flowers that have been made. So, knocking over my microphone. I want to keep this one where it is. I'm going to ground this one to the parent. Now, grounding to parent just means that it won't move. When you click it, like I can click this stem, it moves. I can click this flower, it moves. When I click this, it doesn't move. All right. Now we're going to use our joints, which we used before for the selfie stick project, which we practiced. With joinery, I'm going to click that. Make sure that it's on rigid, because that's just what I want right now. I don't want this to revolve. I don't want it to slide. I just want it to stay in place. I'm going to click position. Now it's saying, hey, you can select something for these, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to select first the top middle part of my stem, and then I'm secondly going to select now I just click this up in the corner to move myself about, click the bottom corner. Now I can see the underside of this, but I want to click that little square on the inside because I want this to go right up on. So I'm going to click this and look at the home view, and then that looks to be fine. It looks like it's exactly how I designed it to be. Sometimes these get tripped out and it'll look like this. And if it does look like this, there's a little button down here called flip. Flip is the easiest thing ever. You just click it, it flips it, it's done for you. Now I'm going to, before I go any further, check to make sure this will work in the real world. Now the way I'm going to check to make sure it's going to work in the real world is I'm going to click inspect, little drop down. There's measure, which we've used before, and then there's interference. Interference is going to check to see if there's any crossover points that we don't like. So I'm going to click interference, and to say, hey, you move some stuff. Do you want it to stay in the same spot, or what do you want to do with it? And I'm going to say capture position. Capture position just means keep it where it is. Revert position means take it back to where it belongs. I like it here. I want it to stay here. I'm going to select my pieces. So I got my flower and my stem. And then I'm going to click compute. And it says there are no interferences detected. Fantastic. Looks like I'm good. I'm going to click cancel. Now this is one whole cohesive unit that is going to work, hopefully. Depends on, with us 3D printing, it sometimes depends on how much overhang there is on it or what quality we print at. I accounted for quality in it, so that's why we have 0.12 on the inside of the flower. So, if we look here, we are going to assemble another joint here, and let's do the bottom inside of the vase. And then I'm going to click the home button, and then I'm going to go to the bottom corner here, and I'm going to choose the bottom of the stem. Now, I can look at that and tell you that's not right. And so it's easy fix. There's these arrows. Oh, my picture's in the way. Let me move it for a second. There's these arrows that you can slide up and down, left to right, front to back. You can rotate it. All right, you got options. I'm just going to keep it as it was. That way I can show you something real quick. So let's pretend like, you don't see that. And you're like, oh, let me check for any interference. So I can click inspect, interference. I'm just going to click my stem this time. I know the flower already works. I don't need to check if there's interference with the flower because it's not part of the situation right now. And I'm going to click the vase. Looking at it right now, I can tell you it's not supposed to work. But let's double check. Compute, and it says, hey, there's 0.001 cubic inches of area that needs to be resolved. If I drag this, it shows me what needs to be resolved. It says, hey, there's this big chunk that you have two things trying to be in there at the same time. That's not going to work out. I go, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. So I can click this joint, right-click it, and click Edit Joint. Or, if I don't like that, if I don't want to try and right-click it, because sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes trying to get this shape, this joint, little E, or, arrow, whatever type of joint you did, sometimes it's really annoying, and it's not fun to do. So what I can do is I can click this joint over here on the left. It's the second rigid. The way I know that is it's the second rigid joint that I did. If I'm not confident in that, I can be like, well, is it rigid 1? Let me turn it on and off. Also, usually when you hover on it, it highlights it. So it's that one. I'm going to right-click it. I'm going to click Edit Joint. And then it's like, hey, what do you want to do? Well, you know what? I want to slide this off a little bit. So, oh, what did I just click? Press pull, cancel. All right, so I just clicked edit joint, and then I accidentally clicked enter by trying to do a press pull. Let's double check. Let's do our interference, stem, base, compute. No interference detected. Sweet. Now I have this whole assembly. This is a thing now. I put this together. Ha ha ha. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a assembly. So I'm going to do naming convention CO and then flower assembly. And I'm going to save it to the flower project, Mr. Owens, or wherever you're supposed to save it. So for you guys, it's flower project, first hour, second hour, and then assembly. But for me, it's under the Mr. Owens folder. So I'm going to do flower project, Mr. Owens, and then put the up arrow, save. Ta-da! All right, now we've made all the files. We know they work, so now we can export them as an STL. So I have my stem and my flower over here. Exporting these as an STL is the easiest thing you're ever going to do. So my stem, I'm going to go up to this file in the corner, and I'm going to click export. And sorry, I did that a little fast. Click this file, drop down, go down to export, click export, and it's just say, do you want this exported as this thing right here, as this name? I don't really want it as an F3D file. I want to scroll down until I get to STL. STL is what my 3D printer can read. So, goes flower project, Mr. Owens. Yours is going to go wherever it's supposed to go. So for you, it's going to be under flower project, first hour, second hour, wherever, STL. So for mine, flower project, Mr. Owens, fantastic. CO stem V2, export. Now, there's two things you can do with the flower. You still have to export it as an STL. That's required. You can export it into its home that, it says STLs. Or, for this one specifically, you go to Flower Project, then you click Submit Flowers into the color that you want. And there's 4 different options. There's blue, pink, purple, and yellow. Whatever file you put it in there, that is the color I'm going to print it at as on my 3D printer. So let's do a yellow will look nice with this one. Looks kind of like a sunflower. CO flower 2 V1, sweet. And then I'm going to click export. Now, let's pretend like you did that wrong and you're like, oh, when I exported it as an STL, I didn't submit it into the submit flowers I want. I submitted it into the, Mr. Owens or first hour STL file. And I clicked export and I went, oh, shoot, I wasn't supposed to do that. There's a few different ways you can get around it. One, you can click the Rubik's Cube up in the corner. And then this shows you all your files, all your projects. I'm going to click Flower Project, click First Hour, STL. And this is honestly the best way to do it if you are in the file currently. Right now, I'm in this file. If there's another way you can do it where you go into the Autodesk Fusion, which I'll show you in a second, but it won't want to do it always if you are in the file. So I'm going to right-click this, click Move, and then I'm just going to move it to where I want to move it. I already have one in yellow. Let's put one in pink. All right, move. There we go. It just moved my STL. Item moved successfully. Now another way to do this is you can go to, I click the Rubik's Cube, do the drop down, and then open in web. Mr. Owens' intro class. Now, this is the whole class. You should be in it. You should only be making things in here. If you're making things in your own class, it's a pain in the butt to try and get them over here and convert them. So don't. Just stick in Mr. Owens' class. So I can go to the flower project here, and I can move things around this way. So I have pink. I'm going to click CO, it's Chase Owens. I can move this to wherever I want to move it to in here. But like I said, it's not going to well, I did if I try and move it right now because I'm also in the file. So there's that, and then we've already covered how to do a drawing. So you would do the same thing for a drawing and export those PDFs. So that is that. Hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. And that's all I got for you on this one. See you in the next video.